All right, so I am recording this call. I'm about to share my screen or present now. Tab, owner's call, share. Start from beginning. All righty, everybody. Well, welcome to the second quarter owner's call for Cedar Ridge Management. Today, we are really excited to talk about treating your real estate business like a business, which is a very convoluted thing if you have never run a business before. And I struggled with that for 15 years of my life. So I'm excited to bring Mike on. The agenda really quickly, we're going to be talking about financing first with Patrick Stoy. We're going to go over sales trends with Sean McDonald and Quiet Waters Realty. I'll talk to you about rental trends, and then Michael will jump in and teach you guys how to go from zero to hero in your single family home investing business, and then we'll finish with Q&A. I would like to say if anybody at any time wants to speak up, has a question, would like clarification on something, don't wait till the end. Just like raise your hand or even unmute yourself and say, hey, Skylar, Sean, Patrick, Michael, what about XYZ? So if you guys don't know Patrick Stoy, he is an entrepreneur, an investor, and a phenomenal human being. He owns MC Capital, which is a private lending group in Wilmington, North Carolina, and MC Mortgage, which is a mortgage company, and has a large rental portfolio. So without further ado, Patrick, what do you got for us?
Hey, Skylar, thanks for that. Really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on here. Today is going to be really great. I mean, you've got Michael, you've got Sean, you've got Skylar, you've got me. We're going to learn about a little bit of everything. So great class here today. So one thing I want to start off with, of course, everybody's asking, what's going on with rates, what's happening. Everybody's waiting for, property values to come back down. So hopefully at the end of this conversation here, I'm going to show you why property values are not going to come down and what we need to be doing as quickly as possible to be able to help build family wealth. What I'm showing right here is basically the last 80 years of nationwide appreciation or depreciation for properties. So if you look at it, it's pretty interesting. You've got 7 years where literally property values went down, and a chunk of that was basically 15 years ago. And that kind of lending standard is not here anymore. You can't just get a mortgage because you can, blow on a mirror and it fogs it up. So if you remove that little financing mishap that happened, remove that from it, literally you're talking either flat or down 1% on a national average for appreciation of real estate. So the natural appreciation rate just combined over that 80-year period ends up being about 4.5%, give or take. So just keep that in your head that property values go up 4.5% per year that compound on top of each other, which is an amazing thing with the compounding interest. So if you'll go on to the next one, Skylar. All right, so where we are right now, average 30-year fixed rate mortgages around 6.71%. Right now, the biggest thing that we've got is people are reluctant to buy right now because they don't want to sell, because 82% of all homes out there right now have their rates below 5%. 62% are below 4%, and right around 24% are below 3%. Okay. The way you've got to think about that is people have the great rates right now on their primary mortgage that everybody took advantage of over the last couple of years. That is moved up right now where the rates are in the 6s, but people are still getting debt. They still have credit card balances, which are the highest they're the highest balance they've ever been right now for credit card debt. So I can tell you that we get calls every day asking us for second mortgages because we don't want to mess with their first rate. So we basically get them with somebody that's a provider of a second mortgage, consolidate that consumer debt into it. But then again, they keep spending. So they're going to build it back again. And that is going to be where they will eventually start selling their properties to be able to do that. Yes. Got a question?
Patrick, yeah. What's the highest interest rate you've seen in your career?
So I got in the business in 1999 and we were around 8%.
Okay. So if we're average is 6.7, we're still low one could say we're still low.
Yeah, the national average over, if you were just to take it back 80 years, right now we are above that. The average is 4.75.
Okay.
Because we had such low rates essentially for the last 15 years that really drove that down. It used to be 6% prior to the last 10 years. The average rate was 6%. Now it's down to about 4.75 because we have more and more houses out there, so the average comes down overall.
Okay.
And so, what we're seeing right now is that the inventory, needless to say, is not a lot because people want to stay in the houses they've got because they've got the great interest rates. So we've got an inventory issue. If you'll go to the next one, Skylar, what I'm going to show you here is this is what the Fed uses to gauge inflation. Okay. So right now, inflation is actually under control. The Fed came out last week. They did not raise rates for the first time in 2 years. They did leave the door open to just, hey, if inflation starts rearing its head again, that we want to leave the possibility of being able to raise another 0.5%. I will tell you that in my career, the highest prime rate that we've ever seen in my years of doing it for 25 years was 8.75. And that was literally in 2007. Right now, we're sitting at 8.25. So over the last 25 years, we're right there hitting near the high end of what prime rate is.
Patrick, real quick, if you could, because I think I know, but I would like clarification. Why does raising interest rates lower inflation?
So it makes the cost of borrowing money more expensive. Okay. So right now, credit cards, car loans, those kind of things, those are tied to what the Fed is raising when you hear prime, your home equity line on your house, those kind of things. So they're trying to slow down the economy by you not spending so much, essentially by making it more expensive to borrow money. Okay. But what we've got to look at right now is the way that the Fed engages inflation is on an annual basis the last 12 months. So right now, you can actually tell that the Fed did the right thing by not raising interest rates this month, because if you look at May of 23, that we were literally only at 0.1. If you go back to May of last year, we can see we're at 0.9. So gas was way more expensive a year ago. Housing was going up more expensive a year ago. So all those core inflation numbers, they were really, really high. Now, the good part about it, and this is where the Fed still has, inflation is still up in the 4s because their target is 2%. The Fed wants a 2% 12-month trailing average of that's where inflation is at. So what you do is you add up all these numbers here, and that is what the Fed funds rate, that's what the Fed inflation rate is by taking all these. And
then real quick to bring something back, if real estate is appreciating at 4% and we're looking at a 2% inflation rate, you got a 2% spread in wealth you're making, correct?
100%. The real estate is the absolute best investment, hands down, to create generational wealth. So what we're looking at here is when we get, like we just got the June report that came out and it was 0.4, that got rid of last May's basically. So right now with what's happening is that average is coming down. We're anticipating that once the July CPI numbers come out, which is the consumer price index of the cost of what it takes to buy certain necessity things that's on a fixed cost every month, that we're going to see the first time that we're probably going to have negative inflation. And that's going to basically be the point where, all right, inflation's under control. There's no more raising prime, because what happens is when we raise our prime rate, our dollar becomes stronger around the rest of the world. So people don't want to buy our debts right now, which are these long-term maturities, mortgage-backed securities, and have the dollar become stronger because their value comes down.
So you're saying you think interest rates are going to plateau?
I think that we are right at our peak right now, is what I think of where we're at right now over the next, until that next CPI report comes out. Because what's going to happen, you see these 0.9 and these 1.2s, they're going to drop away. And right now we're only at 0.1, 0.4, 0.1. You can literally see that we have nowhere near the amount of inflation now that we had last summer.
Okay.
Period. So, and what happens, that 12-month trailing average is what determines how the Fed gauges inflation. If you'll go to the next slide here, kind of really give you, here's our graph. I mean, literally showing you of what the rate of inflation has been where last May, at this May, June, we were above 9% inflation rate. We're already down to 4%. And this is a trailing 12-month average. So you can already see, if you take out, all the items minus the food, energy, and gives you a different slope, that we are already in this correction. So there is literally no need for the Fed to raise anymore. It's just that they are, running their mouth and doing their job. Now, what this leads to, guys, is that right now is the perfect time to buy, because what happens when interest rates go down? It becomes more affordable, so more people can buy, and then that is going to push up the demand for housing, which will only make prices go up further. Okay, so just trying to give you some education of why what we're coming out of from the news data is this is the perfect time before we get really to see that next run of real estate prices. Because if we can get interest rates back down to the 4s, which is the anticipation that we should see over the next 12 to 24 months, it becomes more affordable, but the underlying asset itself lifts up in value because it becomes more affordable. Okay.
Interesting.
Yep. So any questions on why we're seeing, understanding the supply and demand aspect, but also understanding the affordability aspect of why there's going to be another rush of people that are looking to buy, because there's a lot of people that are sitting on the sidelines that are not able to buy right now. But as soon as rates come back down the 4s, instead of having 50 people pre-approved, we're going to have 150 ready to buy, because rents are not going to come down, and it's going to become cheaper to buy than it is to rent. And then that's what will push values up.
And remember this graph when we talk about what rents have been doing, because there's a correlation there that's interesting to talk about.
Yep. All right. So outside of that, guys, just touching base on some things that we offer. We do fix and flip loans, bridge loans, ground up construction. We'll do Airbnb, multifamily loans. One thing that, that's out there right now is the limited inventory that's out there. It makes it hard to go try to find a deal or make a deal, especially if you're an investor. So one thing that we offer is build it from the ground up, or go buy a property that is not lendable and rehab it and create your equity and your cash flow from that perspective. We've done this. Sean can, look for those properties that say as is condition, no financing available. Those are the perfect opportunities right now.
Patrick, could you give us a little 90-second, how does that work? If I wanted to buy a property for $50,000 that was full of mold and was nasty and use MC Capital, what's that process like?
Yep. So here's the way it works, guys, is we will lend up to 75% of the after repair value. So let's just take some simple math here. Let's say that you were to buy a property for $50,000. You get your contractor out there. It's going to cost you $25,000 to fix everything, but that property is going to be worth $100,000 at the end, and it's going to give you $1,000 a month in cash flow. So you're going, all right, that's a 1-to-1 ratio. We will literally lend you the full purchase and the rehab of that property, and then you can either decide to sell it and take that, your gains from the difference between the 100,000 and the 75 that we've lent you. So essentially giving you 100% financing to either rehab or build that property, or you can rehab it or build it and then roll it. We will refinance it, pay off the private equity, and then now you've created an income stream and have a sweat equity position in the property that increases your net worth.
And it's super simple. It might sound complicated, it's really no harder than that. Sean and I just finished it with a project with Patrick. So
and it works. We just had a gentleman that and we're all investors on here, but he went and found the perfect deal. And I'm just gonna do some rough numbers. He picked it up for like $350. It's a 14-unit apartment complex. He got it for $350,000, and his rehab was $250,000, and his ARV came in literally $1 million. So we literally funded him 100% on the purchase and rehab of a 14-unit apartment complex.
That's awesome.
Talk about, seeing somebody change the trajectory of their life. He literally has been able to quit his W-2 job at this point and literally is just going out and finding deals and putting deals like this together to make it happen.
Michael wants to know,
where was that property?
Eastern North Carolina.
Yeah. So, but just to give you an example, I mean, people do it with single families, duplexes. I mean, we'll do it with anything that makes sense. I mean, we do these with manufactured housing. I mean, the guy that I'm just talking about, he literally started his career by doing this with double wides and moved himself up. And now he's done this with a 14-unit apartment complex. So it can be done.
That's awesome. Yeah. Anybody have any questions for Patrick before Sean takes over?
Very cool.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Michael Freelander, you got a quick question?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. How are the HELOCs looking?
So HELOCs right now, I mean, you're basically going to get around prime. If it's your primary residence, generally who we refer people to as first citizens, you can get it up to 89.9% of the value of the property. And they're generally going to be right around prime, give or take, depending on your particular situation. But that is a good way that we show people how to leverage that HELOC to, if you're going to do a fix and flip, use that equity, because it's just dead equity sitting there for you to be able to put a deal together to make sure, at the end of the day, you want to make sure you're paying it back off.
Thank you.
No problem.
Cool. Thanks,
right.
Patrick, for all the info. And yeah, I think my data will echo exactly what you're seeing here locally. And so I wanted to take a minute just to talk about big picture, what's going on in the country with sales data. And the big takeaway here is that you shouldn't trust what you're seeing in the news and how we're facing a housing, crisis, or that values are dropping all around the country. Because while that is occurring in some markets in the country, as you can see from some of these stats, it is not happening here in southeastern North Carolina. We're still in a seller's market. We're still, houses are going quickly. We're just not in as intense of a seller's market as we were in 2020, 2021. But you can see nationally, I just threw up some stats here from the National Association of Realtors. Existing home sales are down 3.4%, but in total inventory is up 77.2%. Zooming a little bit in closer, existing home sales in the South region, the median sales price was $357K. A lot of people too were predicting a big foreclosure boom this year and in the near future. That has not come to fruition. Distressed sales are still accounting for a very small percent of the total sales. We're not seeing a ton of foreclosures. They do trickle in every now and then, but we're not like having this massive influx of foreclosures. Average days on market in the South region was 22 days, down a little bit from March, but up a little bit from this time a year ago. Next slide, please. Now, zooming in here, just focusing on our local market here. So Onslow County, for whatever reason, is just continuing to take off. And I wrote the cities that Onslow County encompasses: Jacksonville, Stevens Ferry, Holly Ridge, North Topsail Beach, Hubert, Swansboro. Average sales price increased almost 10% from this time last year. Average days on market also increased significantly from last year, which you would think those two pieces of data are like contradict each other. How if a house sits on the market for significantly longer than the sales price, the average sales price should decrease, but that's not the case. I think this is more of a normal seller's market where prices are still going up. There's still a lot of demand. But in that first quarter of a year ago or so was just a very strange seller's market where it's like extreme, like houses were just flying off the shelf. Now they're sitting a little bit longer, but a good example is a listing that our team just had in Swansboro. It was on the market for about 10 days. It was listed at $500,000 and we ended up getting a full price cash offer on the house. So it's still, a strong seller's market. We did get multiple offers on this house, and it's still definitely values are holding and increasing. The average sale price to list price ratio did decrease a little bit from last year. It decreased about 2%. So this is what the ratio of what the house sold for over what it was listed for. A year ago, it was over 100% sale price to list price ratio, which says on average houses were selling for over what they were listed at. Now it's a little bit under, but not much at all. So Onslow County, definitely the hottest and seeing the most growth, at least from a data perspective. Pender County, which encompasses Hampstead, Surf City, Topsail Beach, you can see the average sale price here is much larger, almost $200,000 larger than Onslow County, because it's got a lot of like the beach towns, and Hampstead is just a higher dollar area than a lot of the cities in Onslow County. But average sales prices increased just a little bit, not significantly, but still did go up from May of 2022. And then average days on market, again, a big increase there. And then average sale price to list price ratio was just a little decrease. Next slide, please. New Hanover County, Wilmington, Wrightsville Beach, saw more similar to Onslow County here, pretty significant increase in average sales price, up 7%. Same kind of just routine as the other counties. But just to kind of echo what Patrick was saying, we're not seeing a drop in values here. There's a little less demand for properties. Once you hit like $500,000 and over, we've definitely seen those properties sit on the market a lot longer. But in the first-time home buyer price range, you know, 250 to 350, there, if the house is in good condition and it's listed at, you know, what the data says it should be listed at, it's still very reasonable to expect a lot of offers, strong terms, and the seller to get the pick of the litter. But if you guys have any other questions, please reach out to me. And yeah, thank you for putting this together, Skylar, and thank you for managing rental properties very well.
You're welcome. Yeah, thanks a lot, Sean. Interesting to see all of this data kind of combined. So I'll talk a little bit about rental rates, and then I'm going to be pretty quick because I want to get over to Michael Glaspie. But nationally, rents are still up from where they were last year, but things have definitely paused. Inventory all over the nation is up, so we have a lot more supply happening right now because the building that was all stagnated because of COVID finally got through and is on the marketplace now. So you can see rental rates from 1968. We just have a lot of change going on right now. I want to show that rental growth has slowed. So this is not the percentage. This is not where rents are, but the percentage of change. Everyone experienced a crazy hotness in this area from the rental side in like 2022, 2021 and 2022. So I thought this was really cool as Patrick was talking. See this 17% and 16% number here? So that's a rent growth. We saw a ton of rent growth in 2022. I'm going to back all the way up here and go back to 2022 when inflation was really high. So renters or landlords were being smart and raising rents accordingly. As inflation has been curved and is going down, we're now seeing an inability to raise rents. So the biggest takeaway that I would like everyone to have from these first three people, Patrick, Sean, and myself, is because prices are higher and lending is more expensive, investing will get easier if you're smart. We're getting rid of the bad investors because you can't just go buy something and have it cash flow today. So what does that mean? The average people are leaving. And if you really dig down and know your numbers and treat your investment portfolio like a business, you're going to succeed because the chaff is falling away. So just real quick, rental rates in the area, Jacksonville to Wilmington. We've seen a growth almost everywhere except for Sneads Ferry. Sneads Ferry, year over year, rents have actually gone down slightly. And that's because of 2 huge building projects and 1 big apartment that all kind of finally came done. So there's just a lot more inventory and options for people in Sneads Ferry than I've ever seen living here in the last 12 years. We've seen in our portfolio days on market for rentals go from 8 days. So it took us 8 days from listing to sign lease. Our average is now 21, 22 across our entire portfolio. So I'll dive way more into rental rates and all that stuff if you guys want after this, but I really want to introduce Michael Glaspie to you guys. He is an inspiration. He just really quickly, how I got acquainted with him. I was trying to expand my portfolio before I got out of the Marine Corps. And I think Sean might have introduced me to Michael. And it's like, hey, I want to buy, I want to expand my portfolio. And Mike said, I won't talk to you unless you read this book. And the book was The Miracle Morning Millionaire. And he's like, if you don't read that book and do it, I don't want to talk to you. Like, just get out of my face. So I read the book in like a week and was like, I got it. I'm game time. And 2 years later, my portfolio is bigger. I have a couple successful businesses. And I'd say a lot of that is because of the mindset that I got from that book and that relationship and interaction with Mike. So thank you very much, Mike. I appreciate that. And I'm really excited to hear how you're going to teach us how to treat investing like a business and what else you got going on.
I really appreciate it, man. Thanks so much for having me, Skylar. And for those who are on the call, man, this is a rock star group of people here. Sean has been doing some amazing things. I've known Sean for quite a few years now. He's grown his team incredibly fast, and he's done some amazing things in the community. And then Patrick is one of my old role models, guys. He's one of the primary reasons that our real estate team was able to grow from 2 of us to over 100 agents in the past 5 years or so. So I'm excited to be here, ready to kind of jump into this. And, as we kind of continue on with this is more conversational. This is really more conversational. So don't be afraid. Come off the mic, throw some things in the chat. I want to make sure that you guys are getting as much value out of this as we can possibly make it. Okay. So, cool. So today we're going to be talking about treating real estate like a real business. All right.
Yeah. What does that mean?
Yeah, this is fun because a lot of times when we come in as investors, we have this mindset of, hey, look, I want to put money somewhere and I just want this passive income to come in and I want to sit back and I want to enjoy my life. And we often forget that sometimes it's just not that easy. We make it look simple, but you can't just put your money somewhere and then trust that it's going to just magically keep growing, right? We have to actually track it. We actually have to put in systems and operations and actually view this as a business, because if we do it right, well, then the automation process actually comes into place. But it's a little bit more than just trusting that somebody else is going to take care of it.
Mm-hmm. Mike, can you click next, or do you want you can direct me?
I'm trying to see if I can. Okay, got it. I got it. All right, just making sure. So thank you for that. All right, so here's words to think about this, guys. You are paid in direct proportion of the difficulty of the problem that you solve. Now, I didn't come up with this amazing phrase. Elon Musk said it. And I mean, if Elon Musk is one of the richest people in the world, we should probably listen to him when he talks about getting paid, right?
I think I need to raise my rates then. I deal with a lot of problems, Mike.
You probably do. One of the best things about this is as investors, we come in and we're trying to solve a problem for ourselves first, right? Hey, we need more cash. Or hey, we need more time to spend it with friends and family. And we get so good at this, at streamlining this, that we start to solve problems for others and we get to charge them for our service. But when we typically do this, we only get kind of locked into our mental capacity of what we think we can charge, what we think we can earn. And we often look outwards, but we don't look inwards. And in order for us to be a successful business owner, we have to be able to look inside of the business and identify the problems. And if we can start to improve our problems inside the company, well, then our ability to scale and our ability to make as much money as we want in investing becomes limitless. All right. So what we're going to talk about today is when we're looking at really structuring our business like a business, it's all about understanding the finances and using our finances to help us determine the problem solving. All right. So This is what strong financials are going to be able to provide you guys, right? Crystal clear clarity. I want you guys to think about Superman looking miles down the road and seeing somebody falling from a building, right? You can see all the way out there. Imagine if we can just see years and months into the future, and we know exactly what the growth of our company is going to look like. We know by all of this data that this team has already put together, we know what to expect with inflation, with rental rates, right? And now we adjust our business accordingly. So when the adjustment does come, whether it's interest rate hikes or even rental rates decreasing, our business is still good, right? Credibility is being able to say, hey, look, can I get a loan, right? When you go to Patrick and you say, hey, man, can MC Capital give us a loan? They're going to say, yeah, well, first we want to see the property. And then two, how do we know we can trust you, right? That's partial about credibility. And then the ability to cash out. Does anybody in here, you guys can just throw it in the chat or raise your hand, whatever. Does anybody in here imagine themselves one day being able to sell off their portfolio, live on an island, sipping Mai Tais for the last 10, 15, 20 years of their life?
More like last 40 years of my life, and it's going to be a ranch.
There you go. 40 years. We have ranch. We got some mountaineers.
Yeah.
We got some people that like the beach. We got all the above. Well, guys, if we are not treating this like a business, there's no way in hell that will be possible.
Yeah, but
Right.
So clarity, credibility, and cash out. That we started with strong financials. So strong financials, like just the data we talked about today, or strong financials, the like P&L statement that my rental property is going to give me, or strong financial, like, just kind of expand upon those things.
That's exactly right. It's all about the financials inside the company. So as real estate investors, guys, we tend to look deal to deal, right? Hey, this rental property is going to do great because it's going to cash flow $500 a month, whatever the case is, or it's going to give me a cash on cash return of 12%. All of that's fine. But if we really think about this, guys, when we get the cash flow at the end of the day, we have, let's just call it $500 a month, okay? We got $500 at the end of the month. All of a sudden, the roof goes out. Well, that's a CapEx expenditure. So potentially money goes out the window there. But what about any of our software programs that we're using to manage our rentals, right? Maybe we have Appfolio. Maybe we're paying a manager, and that's fine too. Well, then what about the taxes we got to pay? What about if we have a virtual assistant? What about any other types of marketing or lead generations that we're going to do? All of these things are expenses that belong to your business. And so what happens is we often think that, hey, we're going to make, let's just call it a flip, guys. Hey, we're going to make $20,000 on this flip. Well, that $20,000 is what comes out of the flip that you now have to use to operate the company. And so understanding our income statement at that level changes the entire game about how we invest in real estate. All right. And so I'll show you guys an example here with the guidance of Patrick. I don't know if he's still listening in here, but I give kudos to him all the time. I built up, with guidance of Patrick, man, he really helped me out here. So I had built up my portfolio to a little over 134 units. All right, included all kinds of small multifamily, single family, the whole shebang. And recently I sold over half of the portfolio, guys, just within the past 6 months or so, 6 or 7 months. And I actually increased my profitability. Think about that. Who in here would like to do less work with less headache and keep more of the money that they earn? Right?
I'll raise my hand. Yeah.
Hell yeah, right? And so by identifying like a business, there we go. Michael says, yep, absolutely. By identifying it and treating it like a business, I was able to really understand where the leaks in my ship were. And so to kind of share with you really quick what that looked like, 134 rental units, I looked at something called net profit margin, guys. Net profit margin, all that is a sexy way of saying, hey, look, out of every dollar I make, I kept about 12 cents in my pocket, right? That's how much money was left in my pocket. So I ended up selling over half, and I increased my profit margin to 29%. Now, every dollar I make, I keep 29 cents. So if we think about growth, guys, when we think about our ability to scale, that was over 152% growth. I rounded up. Y'all better give me that 0.1%. 152% growth, right?
Well, and less headaches. Like
less headaches.
Even with a manager that completely kicks butt, with 134 units, you still have a ton of maintenance issues over your decision threshold. And yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And like I only use property managers, right? I got people just like Skylar in my life, and I was still on the call a ton. I mean, I'm sorry, I was still on the phone with them a ton because there was always an issue with the tenant, always an issue with repair, right? So understanding the value of being able to do that. So here's kind of the path, right, that we need to follow in order to get to that real business. It just starts with clarity, guys. Reading metrics, which we're going to spend a little bit of time on, understanding a full financial protection, right? What does that picture actually look like? And then learning how to maximize efficiency. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time on these because I really want to open it up for more questions and more conversation. So we'll kind of go through the slides methodically, but pretty smoothly. So we're not going to spend a lot of time there. Now, however, guys, I know finances can be kind of annoying or boring, or, you know, nobody here really, I don't know. Do we have any accountants in the space? Anybody who went and studied accountants or financing? Geek out about it?
Sean and I play cash flow 101 all the time.
There you go. That's close enough. That's basically an MBA. Yeah, see, Patrick loves numbers. I know he does. Not too many people do, right? So for the sake of it, I am going to try to make sure that this is digestible. If I get a little carried away and I start to geek out, y'all let me know, bring me back down. And to be fair, guys, over this next 20 minutes, can we all agree that I can't share every single thing that I know about business finances? So I've already talked to Skylar about this. I actually have something that every single one of you can take home and implement today in your business to save thousands of dollars every single year. All right. Absolutely free to you guys just because you guys joined in. So be sure to stick around for that right at the end. So let's kind of, we'll roll through this a little bit here. When we think about crystal clear clarity, I got some military folks in the house. I see them already. But imagine this, guys. Imagine this. Imagine you being dropped in the middle of the woods. All you have is a piece of paper, a map, right? Paper map and a magnetic compass, right? Not a GPS, nothing digital, just magnetic. And you're told that you have to make it to a very specific point by a certain amount of time. And if you don't make it there, you're stuck out there. You're going to be left. Now, how many people would feel like that's extremely stressful? All right. Now, in the military, we do that all the time. That's called an exercise, land navigation. Right? Fun times. Now, for the most part, I would say most people can make it to that point, right? Because we train them before we put them out there. We don't just throw them to the wolves. It's not like Spartan. It's like, hey, survive. If you make it, you're good. So we train them up on how to do it. And I'll say about 85%, 90% make it. However, there's always that select group of people that don't make it. And I'm sure Skylar and Sean both can attest to some of those guys just not making it to their points.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's bad. Matter of fact, guys, real quick story. I remember I was a cadre on my last little year in, and we sent people out. The time came up. Everybody came back in except for like 5 people. So we go out, we collect them, and then we couldn't find one person. There was one person that was just lost, guys. We couldn't find him. And inside these areas of land, you're not just in the open mountains, right? There's actual hard stops that we say, don't pass this. Stay within the boundaries. And our boundaries, just to kind of paint a picture, are huge. They're like lakes. Like, don't go swimming. Just stay here. So there's one person we couldn't find. And we go out there, all the cadre search, all the instructors were searching. We can't find them for hours. All of a sudden, we get a phone call. And we pick it up, and they say, hey, are you looking for private such and such? It was like, yeah, where is he? He's like, he's with me. Great, where are you? He said, I'm about 7 miles away at a 7-Eleven. And we had to go pick him up from a convenience store. And it's like, how did you get out? Like, I mean, lost. We have some people like that, just out there. Go ahead.
Yeah. So what's crystal clear clarity for me as a real estate investor?
Exactly. When you go out there, regardless if you're lost way out there in 7-Eleven or you're lost at that 1 tree or 2 tree down the road, Skylar, what's the one thing that you get asked when you're lost, when they come up to you and they bring you a map and they bring you a piece of pine straw and they say what?
Where are you, or what azimuth? Where you?
That's exactly right. Where are you? And every single time, the people that are lost don't know. So the question to you guys is, where are you with your finances in the business? What does your actual P&L statement say? Are you actually profitable or are you not? And then having a clear picture of where you want to go. How much cash flow do you need? $12,000? $5,000?
Hey, Michael, real quick.
Yes.
just clarity moment to share with people. Guys, there's a huge difference between the owner statement I send you every month and your real property financial statement. So
100%.
if you're not keeping right, Mike's saying, where are you? If you're looking at that owner statement I send you every month and you're like, oh, this is great, I'm making money, I want you to be making money, but that's not the real picture. The real picture is how's my mortgage payment? How are my escrowed taxes and insurance affecting this? Are they overpaid, underpaid? What is the capital expense coming up in the future? So you need to be, and I can set you up with, we can talk offline, but you need to be keeping a profit and loss and balance sheet for your portfolio. That will tell you where you are.
100% correct, which is exactly the tactical piece that we're about to get into right now, guys. So you understand the concepts, and just like Scott said, in order for us to know where we are, we need to have our financial statements in order. And what the financial statements are really going to tell you at the end of the day, not how much the owner's statement says, but in reality, hey, how much did we actually make? How much did we spend? And arguably the most important, how much do we keep at the end of the day? If we made $1 million this year, would everybody be happy?
I would be.
Probably. Yeah. Now, what if I said you had to spend exactly $1 million in order to make $1 million? Are you still happy?
Nope.
Fire my
because you
accountant.
walk away with zero, right? You want to fire the accountant. It ain't the accountant's job that you keep spending the money, man. What do you think? Right? So these are the 3 statements that you guys need. And this is what it's going to show you. The income statement, guys, just like Skylar said, get you a QuickBooks file, start you up in Excel, whatever the case. If you guys need access to QuickBooks, Skylar can set you up in a direction. I can help you out as well. But the income statement, AKA profit and loss, this is going to tell you exactly how much you keep at the end of the day. Where is your money coming from? Where is your money going? And the better we can read it, then we get to start to answer all the other fun questions. Hey, when should I hire or fire somebody? As an investor, who do we need? We need property managers, yes. Eventually, if our portfolio grows large enough, we may need an asset manager, somebody to manage the property managers, right? We may need a handyman. We may need a bookkeeper. When do I hire a bookkeeper to actually keep all this together? And more importantly, once you really understand it, it starts to tell you how efficient you are in your business. So guys, if you guys remember back to that net profit margin, guys, that's a measure of efficiency. Being able to go from 12% to 30% means that I just got more efficient in my business.
Hey, Mike, when do you think you should hire a bookkeeper?
Immediately.
Immediately. 100%.
A bookkeeper is one of those things that we cannot, if you guys are saying, oh, I can't afford the $200, the $500 a month, and you're not doing it yourself, you're shooting yourself in the foot, because now you don't, if I came to you right now and said, hey, where did this $3,000 go 24 months ago? You ain't going to be able to answer that.
Yep.
Where did this $25 go 18 months ago? You won't be able to answer that. Bookkeeping is something that you need to have now. All right. After the income statement, guys, Skylar already mentioned, this is the balance statement. And what the balance is going to basically tell you is, are we in balance? Are we over leveraged? Which is something that for whatever reason is taught amongst a lot of investors when they get started. Hey, just borrow all the money. Just like Patrick alluded to, as a lender, he's only going to give you 75% on certain types of loans. Why do you think he is only willing to give you 75% and not 100%? Right.
So if he ever ends up with the property, he can get out of it and still make a little bit of money.
Exactly. Because from his perspective, now he's not over leveraged. Over leveraged means, hey, I'm stuck in a position, the asset is gone, and I still have to come out of pocket to make this balance, to make this do, right?
So what's
a
balance sheet? Just spell out for me in like layman's terms what a balance statement is.
Balance sheet is going to be your assets, your liabilities, and your equity. Assets is all your homes, everything that you own. That's an asset. Your cash, that's an asset. Your liabilities is things that take the money away from you. That's your mortgages, right? Any loans due, whether they're personal loans, what a credit card debt, all of that's your liabilities. Now, the difference in between those is your equity. And we can consider equity almost as like the net worth of your company. So a lot of times when people think about net worth, guys, it's not in our own personal stock accounts. A lot of the extremely wealthy is their net worth lies in their business. Jeff Bezos owns 1% of Amazon. He's one of the richest men in the world, right?
You keep saying your business, and I want to make sure people are also thinking, guys, Mike is talking also about just his portfolio. So he has managers submitting him lots of owner statements from all the different places that he has. A bookkeeper is compiling that, and he's calling that Mike Glaspie Real Estate Incorporated or whatever. He probably has a holding company name, and that's a company. So he's thinking about his investing like it is a business.
Absolutely, guys. And every single one of you that are on this call, you are a business. Period. You are. I don't care if you've got one rental property or no rental properties and you're about to acquire. You are a business. And when we talk about scaling, which we will, anything that you want to accomplish in life, if you treat it like a business, you'll be surprised at the clarity that you'll get. All right. Last statement that you guys want to be aware of is cash flow. All right. Think of cash flow as the lifeblood of the business. What keeps the blood pumping in the veins, guys? We talk about cash flow so much in real estate. We're saying, hey, we want $200 a door. We want $500 a door. And that's after, typically, if we're running our numbers right, that's after maintenance and taxes and management fees, right? Well, there's a huge difference between cash flow and profitability. As we kind of alluded to earlier in the conversation, guys, say you make $500 a month. Well, hey, all of a sudden roof is gone. Now I got to spend $5,000 on the roof. So the cash flow for that month might be negative because you had more money going out than money coming in. But it doesn't mean that we weren't profitable at the end of the year. Right? So understanding the difference between those and understanding why it's important and why we need cash flow. How much cash flow do we need? Can we support all of our operations, or are we borrowing so much money just so we can stay afloat? Are we borrowing money to pay for all these other expenses and borrowing money to pay for the interest on other money? That's building a house of cards. Right? That's not good. That's the Bernie Madoff approach. None of us here want to be like Bernie. All right. We don't want to do a weekend at Bernie's in that capacity. All right.
All right. Something like, so I've heard income statement, balance sheet, statement of cash flows, and understanding your numbers. Something that was tough for me in the beginning was figuring out what the numbers should be. So,
and the numbers should be are all about percentages, guys. We are concerned about percentages, not dollars. Just like I alluded to earlier, if you made $1 million, but you had to spend exactly $1 million, your percentage would be 0. Nothing. You kept absolutely nothing. But if you made $1 million and you got to keep 100,000, well, your percentage is 10%. Just like I showed you, 12% for me is where I started. I moved to 30%. Now, as a business, when we start to read these things and we start to take these numbers, how do we know if we are effective or efficient? Well, it's the percentages that tell us. If we're at 10% for January through March, and all of a sudden July hits, or April, whatever comes after March, don't worry about that. All right, and now we're at 5%, something changed, guys. And by us being able to track that change, now we can say, what happened in April? Did the market shift? Was that moving season? Did we lose a lot of tenants? Why did we lose a lot of tenants? Was that our lease renewal month? We get to start to answer all the big questions simply by tracking the percentages, because again, dollars will lie. You may look at it and be like, hey, I made $2,000 this month, but I lost $1,500 this month. At the end of the year, I made $50,000. Oh no, this is a great year. But we took nothing from that. We took nothing about how to be more efficient, right? Yes, exactly. When we look at percentages, like Patrick said, is this an outlier? Is there something wrong that I can improve? Or is this a trend? Is this a seasonal trend? Matter of fact, if it's a seasonal trend, does anybody in here have any properties where it snows heavy? Anybody? Yeah, me neither. I won't do it ever again. I had some, but never again. But what you can see is that maybe profitability all of a sudden drops during the winter months. And when we really start to dig into it, maybe it's because we're spending money on snow plowing or whatever the case may be, right? So those seasonal trends are important to understand. So guys, I'm going to put in here a couple of key metrics, because I remember Skylar mentioned this is something that would be useful to everybody that I want you guys to just be aware of. So the first one, guys, is your gross profit margin. All right, gross profit margin. When you make money on a property, any type of investment, and you walk away with your $500 in cash flow at the end of the day, or on a flip and you walk away with $10,000, that is your gross profit, meaning that that's the money that you now have to then spend on the other expenses inside of the company. Your general liability insurance, your software programs, your computers, your mileage, it all comes out of that $20,000 from the flip. All right. After you spend your expenses, what you're left with is your net profit margin. And the net profit margin tells you at the end of the day, how much did you keep out of every dollar that you earn? So these two are important because they're going to tell you your efficiency. Your efficiency. We talked about it. 12% where I started is less efficient than 30% where I ended. All right. When we look at gross profit margin for rental real estate, a really good place for us to be is somewhere around 65% for the gross profit margin. All right. This is going to be after you're paying your mortgage interest, your property taxes, property insurance, management fees, everything that's tied specifically to that property. And whatever is left over after that property left it over, it gives you your gross profit. So 65% is pretty good, guys, on a rental property company. Now, for your net profit margin, you want to be ideally somewhere around 15%. Now, obviously, the higher on these, the better. That means you're more efficient. But to be safe and to be steady, these are two really strong metrics that every single one of us can take away and implement today, right, to see how efficient we are.
Just to recap, guys, gross margin is expenses specifically for one property or one unit, and net margin would be your whole portfolio after bookkeepers that you're paying. If you're having a VA do some deal finding for you, whatever. That's kind of how they break down again, just to recap.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So because we only have a few minutes left, we're going to jump ahead to a couple of different things, guys. Financial strategy. We're just going to touch on this real quick. It's a combination of all the financial and strategic planning for the entire company. So here's a few different categories. Understanding all of your financing alternatives. Talking to Patrick, he'll be able to show you 17 ways to make something work, right? So we can do that. Managing cost. Skylar would be doing, obviously he does this every day as he's managing properties. He's looking through where can we manage cost on trash removal, landscaping, so forth and so on. Managing liquidity, tax strategy, so many layers there. Other legal risks. How do our contracts look? How well are our leases planned? And then that overall exit planning. That day when I say, hey, I'm ready to go out to the mountains or I'm ready to go to the beach, what needs to be in place, right? So all of these are parts of financial strategy. Now we're going to just spend 2 seconds on maximum efficiency because all we have to do in order to scale, guys, I don't care if you're going from 2 doors to 1,000 doors, all we have to do to scale is maximize or improve our efficiency. That's it. So quick example, I was a Hot Wheels fiend as a kid. I always had them in my pockets. So this is the example I like to use, right? Imagine Hot Wheels being on an assembly line where the first station, they just make the mold of the car. Then it moves to painting over here. And then after painting, they get the wheels put on. And then after the wheels on, they ship it and send it out the door. Well, everything that we do in our business is treated just like an assembly line. So for us, let's say, hey, look, we're looking for deals. Okay, great. All of these deals come in through the door. The second station, we got to evaluate and negotiate. And then over here, number 3, we're putting it under contract. And then 4 would be ownership. All right. So let's look at it as if we've had 10 deals come through and we're able to get all 10 of those deals over here to the analysis and the negotiation phase. But we're only able to get 3 over to the contract. I'm sorry, 5 over to the contract phase. Well, look, guys, if we had that every single day, well, boom, before we know it, now we have 20 that's locked up here. Boom, 25. And this is just representing 3 hours or 3 days. Imagine 3 months. And imagine 3 years, we're leaving so much on the table. So what we need to do to maximize efficiency is simple. Just identify the bottleneck and adjust. Well, here's the bottleneck, guys. 10 can come in, but only 5 can come out. So if we think about this, hey, I can only analyze 5 deals. What do we need to do? We can do a couple things. Maybe we screen these deals better up here automatically. Maybe we hire somebody to analyze the deals, right? And maybe they get a commission if we close. All of these different strategies come into place. And then we maximize this efficiency, and all of a sudden 10 come in and 10 come out. Well, just like anything else, guys, if we can handle 10 here and we can handle 10 out, what's probably our next step? If we know that we can handle all 10, we probably want to go out and get what? More. Right?
Figure out how to manage 10 rehabs at one time.
Exactly. And so this 10 turns to 20, but hey, we're only able to handle 10. So now you guys can see how this process continues over and over again, guys. So as we're maximizing efficiency, that's how we scale. And how do we identify efficiency? It's through the percentages. All right. It's that simple. Okay. Now, because we're running out of time here, guys, bookkeeper, again, highly recommend, right? You can get a controller, you can get a CFO. I do provide fractional CFO services, right? This is just explaining what they are. If you guys are interested in anything like that, just please feel free to just reach out to me, guys. Don't worry about that. That's the average salary, but we don't charge that around here. Fractional CFO work. But I promised you guys something that all of you can use in your company today. So in this, it's a quick little 3-course bundle. Again, absolutely free. All you guys got to do is download it. We're going to talk about the home office reimbursement, where you can literally take landscaping and security systems for your house, your personal home, and treat it as a tax deduction. We're going to talk about how you can create a company budget, right? Not just a flip budget, not a personal budget, a company budget, and how you adjust it quarterly. And arguably one of the worst things out there, I said it, worst, best things, is taking your marketing dollars and making sure that you're actually getting a return on your investment. And how do we set up to say, hey, for every dollar I spend in marketing, I need a 5X return or a 3X return? The entire process here. And not only do we walk you through it, we actually give you free templates that you just download and use the template. You don't have to create it. You can just download and use and implement today. All right. And I'll just leave that QR code up there so you guys can scan that. But I wanted to leave this last couple of minutes for any kind of questions that you guys might have.
If anybody has anything, step on me. But Mike, so many things were going through my head as you were talking that I was wrestling with when I first started investing in real estate, was like, and doing network marketing. What does treat it like a business mean? You talked about getting clarity. And so I'd say right now to everyone on this call, if you don't know, I'd say getting clarity is like action steps leaving here. Where do you want to go? How much cash flow do you want in your life, and when? Write that number down. And then the next thing is, where are you right now? Are you at 7-Eleven, or are you at the land nav box at the end? So, and if you don't know that because you don't have a personal financial statement, give me a call, shoot me a text, shoot me an email, and I'll give you a template and do that. And then, yeah, so I got so much to talk about. Sean just asked a really good question that I want to let Mike answer to everybody. He wanted to know, how do you determine what properties to sell and what properties to keep?
That's a great question. So when we look, remember, we talked about that income statement, right? And what that income statement tells us. Well, if we're using an accounting software like QuickBooks, it makes our job so easy because I'm able to pull up an income statement for every single property individually, all with one button. Now I can look historically and say, all right, well, this property is only performing at a 10%. Well, this property is performing at 50%. And so forth and so on. And the approach that I took was the 80-20 principle. All right, that 80-20 principle basically says 20% of your assets are going to produce 80% of the results, right? And this is something that we found to be true across, not me, right? Science or whatever, right? They found it to be true across multiple assets in life. And so I applied that same principle, the 80-20 principle. I looked at all of my performances, and then I made the clear decision of creating a company standard. This part is key, guys. You have to have an investment standard. Let's say that your investment standard is an internal rate of return or a cash on cash return of 15%. Well, when a deal comes across your lap, if it's not 15% and you can't creatively structure it to make it 15%, the answer is no. It doesn't meet my company standard. Now we don't find ourselves in a bind or in a weird situation where we're trying to force something to work just because we want the next deal. So by creating that company standard and evaluating each one of them individually, the ones that did not meet my company standard, I cut them. We got rid of them.
What are your metrics? Would you mind sharing?
Absolutely. So my metrics are an internal rate of return basis. And so I need to have 15% or higher. Now, there are so many metrics out there, guys. There's so many. Some look from today forward. Some look future date and backwards. All right. Just to name a few, yes, cash on cash. Yes, internal rate of return. We also have net present value. We also have return on equity. We also have return on assets. And the list goes on. And I'm not saying that to kind of confuse you. The point I'm trying to make is you must determine what is important to you based on, just like Skylar said, where do you want to be? Which metrics will get you to that goal? Those are the metrics we're going to use for our company standard.
Sweet. Create a company standard. I like it. Well, we are over. I could talk about this all day. I want to be respectful of your time, Mike. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. To download the thing you were talking about to help me build all this stuff out, I just scanned that QR code, correct?
Yep, that's it.
Guys, I'm going to shoot out a roll-up email because we kind of talked about a lot of stuff. And I really want to help you guys build wealth and large portfolios and quit your day job if that's what you want to do, or retire from the Marine Corps and never go back to work, unlike a lot of our brothers. So yeah, I'm here for you. Let me know how I can help you guys. I'll stay on the call until people drop out. This is my highest and best use of my day today. But yeah, I appreciate your time, Mike. Appreciate your time, Sean. Appreciate your time, Patrick.
Yeah, no problem. And Skylar, one thing I just sent you via email, guys. I am actually hosting a family budget class tomorrow. To come and go off Mike. Mike does it from a business perspective. I am hosting a family budget meeting or webinar tomorrow at 11:30 that you can take your income that comes into these and what are you doing and what's your percentages of saving things. So Skylar, I sent that to your email if you want to send that out to your people that I'm doing tomorrow.
Sweet. Yeah. Man, where are you is so key. If you guys are not keeping a personal financial statement, if you take one thing away from this call, start keeping a personal financial statement. That's like the baseline of all of this. That's going to teach you by just looking at these things. What is gross margin? Like, what is profit margin? All that stuff is going to come into play if you keep a very simple personal financial statement. Just look at these things every single month. You're going to get incrementally better and incrementally better. And that's really all we're trying to do, right? Just get 1% better every single day. Yeah. Sweet. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Patrick. I will push it out right now. So we got some people back left. Do people have questions? We were like touching on so many good things that I know Michael just wants to jump into, and I just want to jump into and help y'all out. Like, what's this conveyor belt thing? How do we break apart our systems? What system should be in my business? If you guys have these questions, you have me right now. You have Mike, you have Patrick.
Yeah, I've got another 15 minutes or so that I can play around with, and no questions, then I'll go. Just like Scott said, this can easily be a rabbit hole. It easily can. So making sure that you just asking what you generally want to know. We'll try to keep it as concise as possible and make sure that you leave with something actionable, which I think is the biggest takeaway here. It doesn't need to be an academic session, right? It needs to be an action-oriented session. So if you guys got any questions, just let us know.
I do have a quick question. It's Marshall. My wife, Molly, owns property in Sneadsbury. We're a dual military right now. And basically have done our natural filter has been to essentially buy property at every duty station. But we don't really keep a I guess, a profit or loss sheet. And I think one of the biggest barriers to that is all of the uncertainty with some of the like evaluation numbers to getting started with one of those things. Like the hard numbers are easy to input, but some of the more, I guess, things you would learn with experience on doing analysis like that, like, you know, when am I going to put a new roof on the property, or am I overpaying for insurance, kind of a thing. So that's kind of where I think for us personally and specifically, we would need a little bit of help with.
Okay, understood. I think I'm really glad that you asked that question, Marshall, because it's important to understand that when we put anything inside of QuickBooks or any accounting software, we're only putting the past data in, meaning it has already happened. All right. So for example, this one gets a lot of people confused. Or like on the balance sheet, when you have your asset there, you're putting in your purchase price, right? You're not actually putting in today's market value, right? There's a difference between book value and market value, and those reports would be completely different. So, you know, I would highly recommend that you do consider QuickBooks to just go in and put in the data that's happened. Now, to your point of understanding how to interpret that or how to use that to forecast, then yes, you know, that's something I can absolutely help you with and give you some guidance on.
Yeah, same. I have a spreadsheet that you take the life of the capital item and you look at when it was put in service, and that gives you an analysis of when you are probably going to need prepared to repair or replace the thing. And that's how you get to that. But you start with putting the numbers in, figuring out where you are, and then thinking now, okay, where am I going? When do I need this new roof? When do I need this new thing? How am I going to pay for it? Right. That's kind of what the Mike was getting at with the statement of cash flows, and like, does my business support my operations? Yeah. And if you don't know what all these things are, hiring a bookkeeper is worth the education. If I could start over in 2011 with one property, I would hire a bookkeeper and negatively cash flow just to learn from the bookkeeper when I sat down with them every single month and was like, hey, what is this? What does this mean? What is that? Tell me, how do I make this better? Yeah, that is worth the wait in QuickBook fees and bookkeeper fees for sure.
That makes perfect sense. And Skylar, I know Molly, you just took over her property management there, and I think she might be interested in a little bit of a further consultation on that specific property at some other point in the near future.
Okay. And what was your name?
I'm Marshall. I'm her husband.
Marshall. And that's your first name?
Yes.
Sweet. Nice to meet you, Marshall. I will. I'll reach out to her and set up a time with y'all.
Awesome.
Yeah. And do QuickBooks, guys. All of my Excel spreadsheets are corrupt from way back when I started.
You know, a lot of people ask like, hey, should I get QuickBooks? Should I do it in Excel? Should I use a different software program? And as many of you probably are familiar, when we do things, we want it to be as convenient as possible. And right now, QuickBooks is the most integrated accounting software platform out there, meaning there's some, and I'm not going to speak to the Skylar system, I have no idea, but there's some property management company softwares that will integrate with QuickBooks. There's other Excel files that'll integrate directly to QuickBooks, reporting programs that'll integrate directly to QuickBooks. And it makes it a lot easier when you're using something that is so universal, right? It's like everybody who has iPhones and the few weirdos out there who have Android. I'm just saying. All right, I'm just saying. Oh, Patrick, no, you hurt my heart, man. I didn't know you were an Android user. Oh, man.
Cool. Kevin, what you got? Any building business questions?
Well, no, I was just wondering. So I do have a bookkeeper, and like currently I have it set up where I have like my short-term rentals and then my long-term rentals dumping into specific buckets per property. Like, do you recommend a certain way to set them up? Like, I just read Profit First Real Estate Investing. And so I've thought about setting my business up that way so I can really get a deeper dive on my profitability. Just wondering how like you recommend setting up your QuickBooks for all your properties.
Yeah, I really like Profit First. I use Profit First. I actually work with several companies where we use Profit First in there. But it's not the only way to do things, right? It's a way to do things. And really what it boils down to is you have to know yourself and how you manage money. So Profit First is a really good way to compartmentalize the money so you don't overspend and you do save for your taxes, for your owner's pay, so forth and so on. If that kind of methodology speaks to you, I highly recommend it. Okay. The beautiful part about this is Profit First, along with other things, these are money management systems. Meaning when you go inside of QuickBooks, all you're going to do is input your bank accounts. All the bank accounts are going to report on your balance sheet, and the reports are going to read the same. They're going to read exactly the same. The management is more of like that internal workings for you. So what I like to do personally is if you're doing active income, all right, so let's say wholesales and flips, all of that can get funneled into one account, or one QuickBooks file, no issues. It's all active income. If you have passive income, like rental holdings, and then you have active income over here, I would actually recommend separating them as companies entirely in two different QuickBook files. There's a lot of reasons behind that to also understand how active and passive income is taxed and all these other things, but it really kind of helps you delineate between the two process models to see which one is actually profitable and not, hey, is my rental holdings actually keeping my flips and my wholesales and afloat, and I'm just now robbing Peter to pay Paul, if you will. But that's my approach to it. Don't take that for gospel. I would love to see your books to give you a little bit more guidance and more direction that way.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, Kevin, you could also do if you're just doing rentals, you could do classifications to separate things out. It's a little higher QuickBooks fee. It's $85 a month, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But that'll break out every single property in a column on its own, and was probably what Mike was referring to when he said he gets a different income statement for everyone. You could also classify them all as different income streams, right? So every address could be its own revenue stream. You could have a chart of account for 220 Main Street, and you could see things that way. For some Profit First stuff inside of QuickBooks, right? Mike talked about being it's basically a cash flow management tool. You can classify income differently. So my bookkeeper takes 30% of all of my income and classifies it as for taxes. So it doesn't move bank accounts, but when I look at my balance sheet every month, I go, okay, I have $50,000 in cash in there, and let's just say I profited $50,000. I know that 15,000 of that, it'll say earmarked for taxes, $15,000 as a sub account under my my bank account, to tell me I have $35,000 left to pull out and play with or do whatever I want to. You could create accounts. You could create other sub cash accounts under your bank account that are save for save for roof, and you could put $100 a month into that classification or that chart of account to be for your roof. So in 10 years you have enough money to pay for your roof. Or you could say, if you want 15%, if you're trying to really get a 15% margin, you could make a profit chart of account in your cash account that is 15. It could be my profit account that's in your same bank account but classified differently. You just got to kind of massage these things out with your bookkeeper or yourself if you're doing it yourself.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, Kevin, I wanted to share this slide. I'm not sure if you can actually see slide. This will be the last thing, and then I'll hop off here. But kind of what Skylar was alluding to there is when we look at these financial statements, the thought process often is, hey, look, we went to accounting class once in high school or college, and so we think that it should look a certain way. We think that it should say things like accounts receivable and this, that, and the third. When in all reality, the financial statements are meant for you as the owner to understand them. So instead of saying accounts receivable on there, if that doesn't make sense to you, then you can actually go inside QuickBooks and change the name to say money owed to me. right? And so now you know how much money is outstanding that you need to go out there and collect with your baseball bat or however you prefer to do that, right? And so it's the CPA's job. It's their job to then take all of that apart and put it in the right categories when they go to file your taxes and things like that. So, you know, Profit First is a great, simple method to do it, where you have your separate bank accounts and all that other good stuff. That's a great way to do it. It's not the only way, but it's a great way. And really, once you understand it and kind of embody that Profit First, you're you know, the world's your oyster at that point. Whatever you can imagine, you can create inside of your financial statements.
Yeah, great point, Mike.
Yeah. And again, if you got any questions on that, any of you guys can reach out to me on Instagram. You guys can email me, whatever the case is. But this is great, Skylar. I really appreciate you bringing me in, and hopefully there was some value added.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to go ahead and cut out here.
Cool. Have a good day.
All right. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks. Bye. Two holding strong. Y'all want to talk about anything?
Hey, Skylar, it's Eric Willis. You mentioned a book at the beginning that Mike forced you into reading before he talked to you. Can you say that title again? I missed it when you first said it.
Yeah, that is The Miracle Morning for Millionaires.
The Miracle Morning for Millionaires?
Uh-huh.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Or it might have been the Millionaire Miracle Morning. Let me look it up. Miracle Morning. Yeah, just Miracle Morning Millionaires.
Miracle Morning Millionaires. Okay,
Yeah.
Great. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Phenomenal book. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. This is a little gold mine of information here. It's got me going a bunch of different directions. So, no, that's great.
Sweet. What do you got? 6 more months, 10 more months before you leave the country?
Just over a year.
Just over a year?
Just over a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you be interested in? Let me ask the question differently. What type of thing or event or help or information would be the most value to you to grow a portfolio?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, you know, I wrote down the where are you, right? Like, where are you and how do you know that? And, you know, it's funny because I use the term clarity a lot in talking to like